book one is a foundation. And if we can break even on ads with book one, as a publisher, we're working on something special here.
Welcome back to the channel. Today we have special guest Regan Rothe. Regan is the creator and owner of Black Rose Writing, an indie press in Texas, the host of Heard It Through the Rose Vine podcast, and a fellow published author. He is an Amazon ad expert, serves on Ingram Publishers Advisory Board, and is a social media certified professional. Regan, thanks so much for taking the time to be on the channel today and share your insights.
No, thanks for having me, Cameron. Excited to chat with you.
So I want to maybe start off just talking a little bit about Black Rose Writing. Can you tell me a little bit about what it is you guys do?
Yeah, we're an indie press, like you said, in Texas. We've got over 600 authors right now, currently all across the globe. We do mostly, what would be kind of some old school traditional publishing mixed with a lot of different flexible and we do some shared cost marketing with authors. We do different contracts that allow, more like the hybrid where authors are more of a partnership when they've, if they've reached certain levels. There's just kind of a variation, and it's just basically what we feel, gives our authors and us the chance to market their books most aggressively and also, be able to sell the most books, because not everybody, including us, has an unlimited budget. So when it comes to marketing, you can, try and test, but you can only go so far within a budget where, doing some of our marketing with our authors allows them, more flexibility and getting bigger budgets through us. And then, it allows us to kind of scale more aggressively, knowing, we've got their support in certain areas.
Okay, very cool. So, we tend to talk about mostly Amazon ads, given that's, the focus of this channel, but it sounds like you do a lot more than just Amazon ads for your clients.
Yeah, we do a lot of different, ebook promotions and marketing along those lines that would, obviously kind of caters to the Amazon ads. We also do BookBub ads, Facebook ads on Meta. And then we have a lot of authors do book events, festivals, that will push books. Our social media and our subscriber list is pretty good. Our subscriber list has gotten to a substantial point where it's nice, just even when you send out a book, like a blast on a specific book, even if it's on a promo, it's nice to be able to go and look at and see, attribution and see okay, it sold, 3 books, which, in the beginning, when you're just starting and you do a lot, you write your first book and you send an email to all your friends and family. And then you're like, oh, I got to go check, see how many sales there are. And the number is always 0 usually, because nobody, you think everybody, they're going to get this email. And then within 30 minutes, they're going to go buy it. And then you learn that doesn't happen. So whenever you do send, something to subscribers and you actually see conversions, it's always a pretty cool thing.
Yeah, especially early on in any, new seller or author, those first sales. I remember those first sales, and you're constantly refreshing what happens. What kind of authors or genres even do you work with at Black Rose Writing?
Yeah, most mainstream genres. So your mystery, thriller, romance, sci-fi, fantasy, literary. But we'll also take on some nonfiction. We've got some really good selling memoirs. And then we've also done some children's and middle grade books. And we're gearing towards trying to, one of my, and so I usually always have goals that are kind of built further in existence. We had one goal a couple years ago where we were publishing 4 books a week. And staff-wise, we felt and adding more authors, and every year, your backlist. And so it's not like you're losing that many. So, emails and trying to, cater to everyone was losing a little bit. And so we had a goal to go from 4 a week to 3 a week. And we're able to do that. And so far, our 3 a week, we've increased our revenue every month since the 4 a week. So we're getting that quality, more sales, better marketing per book, better sales on backlist titles versus, actually losing the, from not doing as many. And so one of our 2026 goals is to, it's a big one, but it's to move to 2 books a week. So we'll be downsizing again by 25% for 2026. And then we're also trying to put together like restrictions on genres. So we don't flood, say our goal is to publish about 100 titles in 2026. And so instead of just, randomly selecting and then being like, hey, we ended up accepting 47 thrillers out of 100 titles, we're going to try to limit, we're kind of building a list of where, maybe it's 18 mystery thrillers and then 12 romance and, 6 children's books. So we're filling these quotas in that way because we are good at marketing those genres and we've had, successful experience in those genres, and the ones that we haven't as done as well, those are ones we've kind of pushed to the side or maybe want less of. So that's kind of the goal. That way we have it clear cut. This is what we have. And we know we're filling those quotas for, whenever our team is trying to market romance or we're trying to, readers want literary, we're filling those gaps where it's not like in 2026, it's like, oh, well, I don't know how, but we ended up publishing 1 romance out of the 100 titles. So like if you're a romance reader, this is it. This is the one option you get. So,
well, it seems like every genre sort of has its own behaviors or strategies that work with. Am I right in saying that? Like every genre is a little bit different in what your approach might be?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, some of them you can kind of group in just a little bit, but even like romance, you can, it's such a big spectrum. You can't just have a subscriber list, and we don't have it where it's like, okay, you read romance and you check this box. We've actually expanded that to have like contemporary romance, historical romance, erotic romance or steamy romance, because it's the same for all genres. If you say you read thrillers, I mean, we can go, you can go down any rabbit hole you want there. And it's like, oh, well, here's, Jason Bourne. You're like, no, I don't read those. I read, psychological thrillers with like dark twists. And it's like, oh yeah. So same thing.
That's been one of the things that's been really eye-opening for me, just kind of being, maybe an outside perspective to the author space. It's just how many different categories there are in subcategories and subcategories of all these niches. And maybe some I wish I didn't know about at this point, but it's just kind of fascinating. And so there is something to kind of building experience and expertise within a specific niches, so you can sort of replicate that across your clients then, right?
It is. And that's, like we said, it's getting those right subscribers, in those certain genres, or just marketing those. When you're marketing, you've got to know, we've mismarketed books, in the beginning, where it's like you're going off kind of what your reviewer said, and then you're going off the author, and the author, a lot of times, unless they're just really, they really know the industry, they don't always know their target audience. They're like, they'll tell you things, and then you read reviews, and it's like reviews are saying one thing and the author is saying another thing, and reviews keep saying like this, they're pointing at legal thriller, and the author is like, no, it's a suspense romance, and you're like, where? Like, that's not what the readers are saying. And so like those can help, being able to go into Amazon and adjust those categories. And we've had books where we've targeted and haven't, had good, conversion rates or good sales in a category, and then you move to the categories and kind of almost like a rebrand, and then those books become profitable with marketing. One of the Amazon ads, a good Amazon ad targeting for that is using the category targeting, so the product targeting, and then putting the categories, and because you can see, like, because you think, okay, this book is this category, and you put it in legal thriller, and it gets 150 clicks in that category targeted other legal thrillers and has 0 sales. But then you look down at like action adventure, and it's got a 100% or less ACOS in it, and so they're like, oh well, maybe action and adventure readers are liking this book more. So those I tend to look at a lot of that data, and then we'll go in and sometimes change the categories based on that.
I find it interesting that you mentioned this, because one thing I've I don't know if this is a hot take or not with authors or KDP sellers, but almost some are hyper focused on being in a specific category because this is what their book is, and that's it. They need to be in this specific category and kind of ignoring the data that Amazon is telling them, or where Amazon changes their category or whatever because they think it's should be in this category based on sales. Is that something you run into?
Yeah, and then the author gets mad, and you're like, well, the reason it's in that category is because people are going through searches and traffic and channels, and they're ending up through going through that category, getting to your book and converting it. And Amazon says, hey, wait a minute, let's change it to that category, because when people go through that category and they find the book, they're actually buying it, whereas the other category, no one's buying it. And so, yeah, and authors get mad at that all the time. And then, like you said, there's a lot of stubbornness in genres and even like keyword targeting. That was one of the best things, or one of my favorite things about using MerchJar and any of the automated type ads is because it takes away your human emotion and subjectivity, where it's like the author or even like review, you might have the best first review, but the review is from one person, and the review one company or one person, and it says like, if you love Stephen King, you'll love this book. Yes, sounds great. So we're just going to force Stephen King to be a keyword for this book for several years, even though every time we do, we go look at the data and it takes, 35 clicks to get one sale, and it's a losing money keyword, but we'll turn it off, and then a year later it's like, wait a minute, like people love Stephen King, so let's turn it back on. Let's try this keyword, because they have to like this book. And then with, when you're using automation like MerchJar says, no, this keyword sucks, get rid of it. And then you don't have any, you're not sitting there, thinking like, no, it's got to work. Like, I'm going to make it work.
I think that's a really important lesson to learn as a new seller, a new advertiser, is disconnecting emotionally from your products. And especially if it's your first product, it's, it's difficult, but as you produce more books and things, I think that gets a little bit easier. I do think my suspicion is that a lot of authors are hurting their sales when it comes to these categories. You sort of mentioned it by forcing specific keywords. I've also seen where they are trying to force specific keywords to appear in the categories they want their book to appear in, and ignoring other keywords. And I think it's a detriment to the SEO of their page by using a very limited keyword set. And I see this in some of the audits I've done on products where, using a tool like Helium 10's Cerebro or Reverse ASIN search, where they only index for a handful of search terms now because they only use so many search terms in their product description. And that's how Amazon learns what your product is and where to show it versus, having a well thought out or just diverse keyword set. They'll be able to show your book on a lot more search terms to test out. Do you have any thoughts on that, or like maybe an approach to what the SEO side looks like? I know it's maybe a little bit outside of Amazon ads, but it's very, in my opinion, it's very closely tied. They sort of go hand in hand.
Yeah, and to give a shout out to Dave Chesson and Publisher Rocket, that's the resource we use, and we've used it for, probably since the beginning, almost since he launched it. And Pub Rocket, allows us to go in, like you said, and Dave has some strategies he recommends. We kind of have an internal strategy that we, kind of mess with, but it's basically, like you said, going in those Amazon 7 keyword slots and trying to, do a few things. And it one of ours is, we try to get like 1, 2, like 3 keywords or so that are just really spot on, but they obviously they have searches but they're low competition. And then we're usually doing like 2 or 3 slots for the bigger ones that we know, like, okay, this is exactly what it is. Yes, like obviously if you put political thriller, it's very, very competitive. But we like to put a few of those, because then I feel like why are we holding back? Not for all 7. If you put all 7 extremely competitive, you're never going to show up on the list, or you're just running the risk of not showing up on searches ever, except page 2, 3, 4, 5. But we'll put a few of the bigger ones as more of an optimistic, like, hey, if we're running a promo, or hey, if this book does take off, or if we get a book buff deal or whatever, where it's all of a sudden jumping into the top of its categories. Now it's firing on those and it's getting on the first page of those bigger ones. And then we'll use, sometimes one or two slots to kind of do like a keyword dump where you're getting like long, really long tail with a lot of other things, if it's got, robots, marines,
Sure.
mechs, and like just kind of tie those in where maybe they'll catch some of it. But what we always test all of our keywords using PubRocket, just kind of see, if people are searching for it 100 times a month, then, maybe if it's a niche book, that's okay. But if it's not, if you got a mystery book or like a, mainstream psychological thriller or something, then those keywords they're not going to be any good because no one's searching for it enough. So you're just not ever going to get enough sales off that keyword.
Sure. And it goes beyond just even the 7 keywords. I mean, you get indexed for keywords anywhere in your listing, with A+ content, your description. Stephen Pope was a recent guest on our channel, and he did a great series on SEO at one point, but they even tested the all image text is getting indexed on some of that. So you have tons of room to put in all sorts of keywords. If you're not getting indexed on a search term, you're just not even in the game to be eligible for traffic. And I think it's one of the best ways to increase sales. It's just by increasing your potential traffic to your listing.
Yeah, I mean, especially when you have niche, genres where it's like, if someone's searching for something, cozy, veterinarian, mystery, you've got to be appearing on that.
Yeah, exactly. One of the let's talk a little bit about like people that are new to advertising with Amazon ads. Is there any common mistakes you see authors make all the time with their ads, and maybe what they could do to avoid them?
Yeah, there's a few. I think don't use the dynamic bids up and down until you kind of know what you're doing, just because you don't want to have, I think it can just lead to bad data early, especially if and it's not, not often, but if you're, say your Amazon auto ad or whatever came out firing, and it's, even if you put like a 60 cent or bid, it might be, you might be getting right out of the gate $1 plus, ranking, but getting $1, paying $1 or more per click. And so you're going to spend, and if you're not getting conversions, it's going to look like a bad ad, where it's like, if you could just get those same clicks at different times, for under 50 cents, then it might be worth it. Same with keywords. So try not to overspend, which is rare. I mean, it's hard to do on Amazon ads, but we like to come out a little less aggressive, and we're, I think if you're an author and you're making a living on it, you can't necessarily come out less aggressive and just like, okay, a month went by and my Amazon ad spent $14, like no big deal. You need it to obviously spend. You're trying to generate this scaling. Whereas with us having so many titles and Amazon ads and authors, we're able to fortunately do that, where sometimes we'll look and be like, last 2 weeks it's spent like $9. All right, well, let's ramp it up a little bit. But it's not something we're necessarily relying on as a whole. And so we can be a little less aggressive, but I think, authors who are doing it, they need to be aware of that overspend early, and don't make it where it's detrimental to, to your total budget, or where you get to where it's like, okay, I failed and now turn it off. I think a lot of authors do that with all ad testing, Facebook ads, everything, is they go in and they sometimes set the budget a little too high. And obviously like Facebook ads, they'll spend it, whatever you put, they're going to spend it. And so then they go back, and instead of, looking at why and changing and trying again, it's just like, oh, Facebook ads don't work. They didn't work for me. And it's like, well, how many ad creatives and campaigns you ran? And it's like, oh, well, I did one image and I wrote one text and I ran it for 2 weeks, and they're just no good. And it's like, well, Black Rose Writing, we have one book and one series by our author, Chris Kelsey, that for 12 months we ran negative Facebook ads. But we knew his book, he has 5 books. We knew the ratings, the reviews, everything's so good that we knew that it had that potential. And so we ran, and we probably did I would say 20 to 30 different ad creative stuff like that. And then all of a sudden in like February, we targeted his newest release with a new creative, and it was like a text creative. And it was not even how like you look at ad creatives and you're like, that was not going to work. And then it works. Like that was kind of that one.
Yeah.
Where we call it like a text creative, where like it's got a background that you can kind of see, but the ad is almost all text, like big text.
Sure.
And it was just whatever text we put in there. We did 2 of them with different texts. They both, it was the right text. It was just like in Facebook, and whatever combo they used with their AI they sent it to the right people, and that text, the right people were clicking on it. It was converting. And then, that book all of a sudden, had first like good positive February with our ads. The Amazon ads took off because of the Facebook ads taking off. I think they go hand in hand a lot, especially, if you're spending $50 to $100 on a Facebook ad with the attribution, Amazon attribution, and driving it to Kindle. Those tend to, obviously as people are clicking and buying, they're going to Facebook. And so your Amazon ads, a lot of times I'll see they'll start performing better as well. So that book took off, had its best month in like February, March, and then April doubled it. And then May doubled that. And then like June has been about the same. And so the author's super pumped. We've had a great, 6-month period. And so that's a good example of like it took us a year plus of testing different ads and not giving up on that one, which I'm not saying everybody should do, but it wasn't like it was a 3.4 rating with 42 reviews on Amazon. And like all the reviews said this book is terrible or like, don't read it. It wasn't like we were just dumping into that. It's a book that, it's a 5 book. They're all together. And the amount of rating, book 1 has over like 2,000 ratings. It's like a 4.6. And so it's like they're, the baseline is there to create profitable ads. You just have to get Meta to send it to the right people. And the same with Amazon. It's the same thing. If you're in the wrong genre or they're targeting, you look at your auto ads and they're targeting something that is not, it's like, why are they targeting romance? This is a small town crime mystery. It's getting them to target the right ones, and that, and then getting those right keywords, and then they'll do the same thing. They can just take off.
So really the takeaway is just testing, like continually testing until you find the right message when it comes to at least Facebook and creative, and the right audience for both Amazon and Facebook. Really is the right audience for your product.
It is. And then whenever you find it, realizing that it's not gonna stay forever. Like that's the hardest thing. You've got the ad that's killing, and then like 2 months you're like, yeah, it's scaling and everything, and then all of a sudden, it's like, oh, like it's not, the ROAS was always a 1.5 to 2, and now all of a sudden it's a 0.6, and you're like, why? Like what happened? And then and then sometimes it's just, ads, targets, things change on Amazon, and you get exhaustion, and they don't work anymore, or whatever was hot just isn't hot anymore. Like maybe a new movie comes out that was a book, and it's hot, and your book is resonating with that. But then once it dies down, sometimes that keyword dies down for, readers as well, that, they're not going to your book as much.
Well, that's one thing we can definitely be sure on, is Amazon's always going to be changing.
Yes.
You sort of touched on it with Facebook. They'll spend every single dollar that you let them. A lot of authors struggle with getting Amazon ads to spend. It's one of the biggest challenges I hear from authors, is getting Amazon to spend. Facebook is easy. They'll spend everything. I'm having a much better time with Facebook. So that's where I'm putting my budget. Do you have a strategy or process, or maybe some advice to these authors that have Facebook working and would like to get Amazon to work? Or what's that balance look like? Should they only focus on Facebook, or should they keep trying to get Amazon to work? Or how can they get these to spend and scale?
Yeah, if they're running Facebook and they're actually selling books, like if it's even close to break even, then they shouldn't have any issue with the Amazon ad spending, in my opinion, because there's traffic, there's going. The Amazon ads that we have trouble with are like, sometimes we'll do a backlist author that has like 2 or 3 titles that haven't been selling. And those are hard whenever, you're ranked outside of the 50,000, kind of is a good number. If you're ranked outside of 50,000 in the overall Kindle store, your book hasn't been selling, one a day, or, it's selling, obviously zero, and then maybe one copy here and there. Those are the ones we have a little more trouble spending. And so there's a couple different things. One is obviously just kind of is ramping up your bids to where it's like Amazon's like, and then pulling them back as it starts getting impressions and stuff. But one of the methods we like to use is running like a Kindle countdown deal. If you're on KU and using paid partners, like Bargain Booksy and sites like that, and doing like 7 days at 99 cents and getting a lot of paid partners in a promo and our subscribers. And that way you're driving a lot of, sales at 99 cents and traffic. And that will sometimes, we've noticed that'll kickstart your Amazon ads as well, because now it's getting data. Where it wasn't getting data, now it's saying, okay, like, it sold 13 copies at 99 cents today, and then sold 17 day 2 and 8 day 3. But where all those sales are coming from, they're finding, where they're coming and tying that into other books, getting its ranking. And so there's a lot of, I think, little algorithms in there that help fire off the Amazon ads. But sometimes it's just, it's the, the old chicken and egg. You've got to get more reviews and sales, and you got to, authors always say like, well, how do I get reviews if my book's not selling? And it's like, well, it's tough, but it's like, and then it's like, how do I get sales without reviews? And it's like, well, yes, exactly. And so using those promos, the power of the promos can help. But also with the Amazon ads, sometimes we'll just have to pause them or leave them running low until we can, get more, I always just say the product page. You go look at the product page, and if you've got 27 reviews, it's like, why, I think of it as a reader. And I personally am not a, obviously I publish a lot of indie authors, but I don't read a lot of indie authors outside of Black Rose. And so like if I clicked on a book and went and had 27 reviews, my odds of buying that book are probably extremely low. And if it's not a mainstream author, all very low. And so that's what authors, you have to ask yourself, like, look, you're trying to run an Amazon ad, you have one book and it has 27 reviews. Like, what's going to make somebody click on this and actually buy the book? And so it's really tough. And so that's why I think getting those promos and building that reviews, writing more books, all of that's going to help, fire off the Amazon ads later. Timing just may not be right yet for you.
Is there like a certain number of reviews? I agree. I mean, reviews are incredibly important when it comes to just selling your product. The more reviews you have, the higher conversion rate you're going to have. So there's like a magic number where you start to see more traction?
I always say, like, for us to run Amazon ads for some of our books that are like new, if it's a new author, new book, everything, 50 is kind of the number that we look for.
Okay.
And then 100 and those kind of two, just give it where there's enough where someone's not going to go through and see like two things that are not really that great, where it says like, oh, what a great book, ending was great. Like, that doesn't tell you anything. It's, once you get 50, or if you get to 100 review ratings, you'll have enough usually reviews where some of them people might actually write, another summary of your book, basically. They're writing their own description in the review, and those are the ones I think can really help, because then you're getting real reader perspective, and people can read those, and those, a lot of times, I know those sell the book as much as the description does. I don't always, I'm trying to think. So one of the books I'm reading right now, it was recommended through authors I read, and I looked through to see like what kind of genres he writes. And I was kind of feeling like dark mystery, like, like the detective who doesn't have a good home life because he's a really good detective. That kind of, like where he's effed up everything else in his life because he's so great at like focusing only on the case.
Or what's that category called? There's got to be like a subcategory.
Man, I guess it's just like police procedural, but like I always say like dark detective or like serial killer thriller, something along those veins. But I like, maybe a little noir, but it's a detective, but I want it to be darker. Like, I don't want it to be lighthearted. And so I was looking for those in fellow books, and I don't even think I read the book description. Maybe I read the first sentence of it, and then that was it, which I'm not saying the book description is not important, but I think I read the first sentence of that, then went down and read like 2 or 3 reviews. And then is when I bought the book. And I saw that it's okay, he's got 9 books in this series, which I like, because then it's like, okay, if I really like book 1, I know I don't have to figure out what I'm reading next. I already know what I'm reading next. And so, yeah, so I went through the real reader reviews, and I don't think I read the description, which I don't always read a lot of it, because I'm kind of more of like, I like being surprised. I like give me the baseline of the story, but I don't want too much.
It's not far off from my process of evaluating a product, book or not. It's kind of like, once you get that first interest, whether that's the thumbnail, it's kind of in, what you're looking for, it's jumping to the reviews almost immediately rather than to the description, unless you need to like make sure it's a certain size product or what have you. But I think that's probably we've almost been trained to do that at this point, is read reviews. So I think, kind of going back to what you said, is 50 as being that, maybe not a magic number, but when things start to maybe get a little more interesting. And this will depend, I'm sure, by genre, depending on how competitive it is, whether, romance is a huge genre where, maybe you need more reviews to compete, but it's doing whatever you can to get those first reviews. And it is harder at first because people aren't going to trust the book. They're not going to have those reviews to look at, that social proof, but doing whatever you can, being aggressive with getting those reviews. Am I kind of saying that how you would put it?
Yeah, and if building your own subscriber list is essential. A lot of authors don't do that very well, because that's what, I mean, we call them free sales, but they're, that is not the right word, but because it's like, obviously, if you're paying for a MailChimp subscription, or you're paying for it, it's not necessarily free, but it's kind of like
time.
Yeah, time, but it's kind of like Netflix. You once you pay for the subscription, you feel like you're browsing through everything, and it feels free when you're watching stuff, but you're paying for it. And that's it's not like you have to click and pay to try every little thing. And the same thing with the subscriber list. If you build and nourish and have this great relationship with those followers of you and your writing, then when you launch a new book and you send it and they actually buy it and support you, those are going to be obviously extremely cost effective versus Amazon ads, Facebook ads, things like that. And so that's why we always tell authors, obviously the subscriber list is very valuable, because those could be the most powerful readers you have and most dedicated fans, and they're that you can reach back out to them and things like that. And so that's huge on helping with your early ratings and reviews, for sure. And then just I still think it's not as powerful if it was, but ebook promotions, giveaways, and 99 cents and stuff like that is still something that we use quite a bit.
All these things are, I kind of see as an investment in your product's future, really. I mean, when we think of any product, it's got a product life cycle, and that first portion of it where it's super early on, I mean, you really need to see all this, whether it's ad spend or investing time and money in newsletters, promotions, as an investment in getting those reviews for really increasing your potential sales down the road.
Yeah, I think a lot of authors don't look at it that way, and that's something we preach to our authors, is like, you're building a platform and you're investing in yourself and your product. And so there's always a couple things that I always touch on. And one is like, say, the example I always give is real estate. Say you bought a property that you were going to, rent or whatever, you make an investment on that. And if a lot of our authors are like, oh, well, is it going to be, am I going to make my money back like on a ebook promo? And you're like, well, not today. And that's the same with, like, if I mean, I want to be in that business. If you, say you bought a property and like, all right, Cameron, you're going to rent my property. In 2 months, I've now made profit off your rent. Like, that's the business I want to be in. But from my understanding, like, if I start making profit in 5 to 7 years, or, that's a probably really good investment, really smart investment. And so that's the same with authors. It's like, you're building this platform. And I always ask them, especially authors that have 1, 2, 3 titles, it's like, okay, tell me the last 5 authors you read, or who have you been reading, or who are your favorite authors? And when they tell you that list, I can tell you it's Joe Abercrombie and George R. Martin and Stephen King. And so those are some of my favorite authors. And you look at that and you say, okay, next question is how many books have those guys published? Like, when people say like James Patterson, how many books has he published? 2? Has he published 3? And almost always the answer is obviously always 10 plus, 20 plus. And that's what we're trying to tell authors, like, look, this is their platform, and it's the same for you. It's like book 1 is a foundation. And if we can break even on ads with book 1, we're in, authors might not understand it all the time, but as a publisher, we're like, we're working on something special here if they've got more books coming.
Yeah, I can't agree more. And I see this, and I run in this in a lot in the other spaces with designers doing, apparel designs and things, authors. And I don't know if it's the creative field or it's their kind of first business venture to where they want to be profitable immediately, or maybe they want, they're trying to build an income right away from it. And I think the best thing you could do is be as aggressive as possible, is not trying to be profitable on these initial products or initial reviews on a new product or ads on a new product to help build that sales momentum. I mean, not just reviews, but getting orders to rank your product to increase that sales velocity. So I can't agree with you possibly anymore that look at it as an investment and in your sales future, really.
Yeah, we've had a couple books where like book 2 is, just about to get pre-order. And like you said, book 1 is profitable. I mean, break even or maybe even losing a little, but it's like, we understand that it's like, we're not turning things down, we're turning things up. And when book 2 gets in pre-order, we're starting to see those pre-orders start pour in. And book 1 is still, Amazon, we're not going to get paid till it releases, but you can see those pre-orders building, and you can see, okay, as long as we can keep book 1 break even or so, when book 2 launches, then everything's just going to turn into positive. I mean, obviously it's going to be a good payday on launch. That's probably going to make up for any loss. And then, everything after that, if you can keep, if your ad hypothetically runs exactly the same after book 2 is available, then that means book 1 is now break even still. But if, 1 out of even 5 or 1 out of even 10 people that buy book 1 go to book 2, everything turns profitable really quickly.
So you're touching on an interesting point, which I want to talk about with KDP sellers specifically those enrolled in Kindle Unlimited. I guess not just with it, but there's a lot of unique aspects when it comes to selling books on Amazon that most other products just don't have. So I see some of these having series. So where someone buys book 1, they'll go on to buy book 2, 3, 4, so on. There's other attribution challenges and page reads outside these attribution windows. When it comes to evaluating the performance of these, and maybe we can take these case by case, because I think there's going to be some differences between just the page reads aspects, the series and series read through. What's your strategy or process to just evaluating the performance, particularly for Kindle Unlimited authors that have the estimated royalties, they have sales? Amazon doesn't give you great data on this with an ACoS. It's pretty much useless if you're doing KU. I guess I've kind of touched on a lot of different things here, but maybe if you want to start with one and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I think that boils down to, before you turn off ads or adjust ads, you got to look at, and we like to do a 2-week period. We were doing a 1 week, but the attribution and the fluctuation is so dramatic week to week. I feel like that sometimes you overmanage, you micromanage. And so it's like if you have a series of 9 books and someone buys the whole 9 book series, and then you have a bunch of page reads, then that week might look, your ROAS might be, you might be, like a 1.5 or something. Then the next week, only one person buys a book, low ad spend or whatever, and then it drops back down. And so okay, well, are we going to turn this ad way down because it went from 1.5 to 0.2? Or if we look at a 2-week period, obviously it's going to meet in the middle and kind of give you a little better number. So that's kind of what we work off of. And then we just base it off of our Kindle royalties estimator and then Ingram for us estimator, and kind of go through that minus the ad spend. And at the end of the day, if it's making money, then it's profitable. I mean, that's what you're trying to do, whether it's your ads or something else. But sometimes your ads could be failing, but they're causing it to rank high enough where maybe the organic sales or other traffic. Or for us, we've been aggressive with a lot of our books in the past that have series. And so you still have so much back. I mean, people don't read when you add a book to your KU, some people don't read it for months, I mean, they might just add it to their wish list and then they might read on Kindle Limited 6 months later. And so you're not going to get that attribution, but obviously you're going to get that royalty. And so ours is, there's a balance, but like one example, and I've got his screen open, but one of our authors has a 8-book thriller series, and our Amazon ads right now, this is the last 2-week period, our Amazon, ROAS is 0.89, which for a big series for us is usually a good sign. Okay. And the cost per sale is like $6.76. That's what we're getting right now.
Are you advertising just the first book in that series, or do you have a different?
We have all of them on our Amazon ads. Okay. Most of the money goes to the first book. Like, that's just how Amazon will do it, but it will target the others. And we like that because we've tried both ways, but we like having all of them lumped into, a standard ad, like auto ad on Amazon, put it standard and then put all of them in there. And the reason is because they're showing up, and sometimes, like, if you're looking at the carousel, like the similar products or whatever, or books you might also like, and you're on Amazon and you see, say book 1 and then like number 4 on the slots, like book 4, you're immediately now, instead of just seeing one book and wondering like, oh, is that a series or it looks like a series, you're automatically, you're like, now it's a series, like, oh, there's book 1, there's book 4, like showing up on the same ad. And maybe one of them even looks more enticing than the other, and so that'll drive you into that series. But yeah, so his Amazon ads, look like they're okay. But then we go to the Facebook, we have meta ads that are running at like 22 of them that are running at $20 a day, and they have one of them's a $27 cost per sale, and the other's a $21, and they're like a 0.26 and a 0.33, which you're like immediately, like most people, if you're giving a course, you're going to say pause. It's like, well, the last 2 period we made $533 in royalties over our ad spend over the last 2 weeks for that book, for the author and us. And so it's like, why are we going to turn those off? Like, maybe we can adjust them, maybe we can turn them down a little and see how that affects it. But we've done so much work on this series kind of in the past that, we've had a lot of traffic before. And so we want to keep traffic going. And so we'll launch another ad based off those and fine tune it and see if we can get the right one again. But we're not just going to shut those off because it's profitable. If it was negative, then yeah, we might just pause both of those immediately, the Facebook ads, and let the Amazon ad run by itself and kind of see where it goes. But as long as it's profitable, I think, scaling down a little and playing with it, and then doing more testing, more creative. So you got to launch, we do them based on creative. So we launch like the DCT on Facebook that does, like, it'll take multiple images, multiple texts, and send them all out and does its own little thing. So we've been doing that. And so what we'll do is just go in and create like a couple new images, a couple new texts, and we'll launch a new one and let it run and keep doing that till we get the one that we think can run longer term.
So it's really more than just the direct sales that you're seeing from your Amazon ads. You got to look at the whole picture.
Yeah, I mean, that's why we have our spreadsheets that we use where we're constantly checking those. And I think it always boils down to whether it's profitable or not. And if you're showing you spent $500 in a month on ads and your KDP royalty say $632, then that means it's profitable. Can it be more profitable? Yes. Like, if you turned off all your ads, maybe next month you would make more because you're getting that carryover, which authors don't always factor in as well, that all of that marketing you did is carrying over for a while. But at least, I say at least a 1 week, sometimes 2 week period, you're getting that carryover.
I guess it'd be even more for series. I mean, if you
it can
be marketing when you got a long book series, it's going to take people time to go through those, where those ads you were running heavily on book 1 led to all these organic sales for the book and later in the series. That's going to take time for people to go through. Or your example where someone lets a book sit in their KU for months where you don't see any of the attribution for that, even though the ads got the sale. You just don't have that direct sales data. So I think that is a big challenge with authors, where there's a lot more attribution challenges around ads specifically than product sales. There's still the 14-day window. If someone clicked on an ad and they come back and buy later, maybe that, click led to that sale, but it's not really quite comparable. Most people are buying right away or within that attribution window where you can see that data and optimize around it. And yeah, with books, it's just, a lot more challenging, where you got to look at the bigger picture and where kind of see what, I guess, the trends of your ad spend versus your sales or total sales.
Yeah, the ad metrics are obviously very important, but at the end of the day, the magic numbers, whether it's making money or losing money.
Right. And that's what we're all here for at the end of the day, I suppose. You touched on, so your agency uses MerchJar with its clients. How has it helped you manage their ads and improve their performance? Is there any specific features that you found to be most beneficial?
Yeah, the automation obviously is number one. I went from optimizing our Facebook ads probably anywhere from 3 to 15 hours a week, maybe even more than that, to now I don't even do anything except go in and change
Amazon
things here.
Not
Amazon. Did I say Facebook? Sorry. Yes.
Facebook. You're still
Amazon ads. Yes.
Facebook ads yourself.
Yes. So MerchJar it's been wonderful, and we've been, ours is a little more complex than someone who probably just starts using it, just because you and I've worked together on it, and we've gone in. But we have. Let me see if I can pull it up. But we have. Let's see. We have 184 campaigns running right now on Amazon ads. There's no way you'd be able to, go in and optimize and change keyword bids and do all that stuff without, getting an aneurysm. And I had, your head starts to, your eyes, everything, your headache feels like it's about to explode. And so we tackle them a little bit at a time. I'd have different ways I did them, but we went in and built recipes on MerchJar that just, and we're still adjusting them. I haven't checked them too much lately. I go in and use the smart campaign feature to add. We have new campaigns that are starting to get clicks and impressions. I'll go in and add some negative targeting recipes and new targeting recipes where it'll automatically add keywords and things to those ads. But the recipes we built was derived around just basically me going in and optimizing ads, like opening a keyword ad that had like 200 keywords, and this is what I would do, and going through that and making little notes that said like, okay, in this situation I did this, in this situation I did this. And then we went to MerchJar, we kind of built those recipes based on those notes and tried to find every scenario where and we feel like I haven't noticed anything in a while where it's like, oh wait, like that keyword should have went up, or that keyword that should have went down, or that one needs to get a bit higher because it's not getting impressions. We went in for, every scenario. And I can't, I love your product and love MerchJar. And it's something that we've been looking for a while. And okay, you wanted to talk about the best feature. The best feature is the addition to track KNP, the page reads, because every other product that had the Amazon ad automation, there was a few other companies, I won't even name them. They all had good optimization and automizing keyword click based on ACoS. But like you said, with books, you can throw ACoS out the window usually, because even if you know that a 250% ACoS is profitable because you have a big series, it's still the KNP royalties, especially on those KU big series. It's a killing metric. An example, we had a book, I remember specifically because it was Griff Hosker was the keyword. And I got so mad at it because we were marketing a historical fiction 9-book series at Griff Hosker, and we had like $1.12 a bid, and it would have 0 sales every month, but it would have 110,000 page reads and just these So, and you'd look and it'd say $28 spent and $42 page read, profit margin. And we'd go in and we started using ad optimization before MerchJar. and we'd go in and they'd take that dollar like 10 bid and they'd cut it down to like 52 cents and just kill it. And like, I could never get it. There was nothing I could do to keep them from, they're like, this keyword. And then one time they paused it. It like got paused because it had like 30 clicks and no conversion. So it got paused. And we had to go find it, unpause it, put it back in play. And so with MerchJar, the having to be able to do the adjusted or blended ACoS is what you call it, and use that factoring has made all the difference, because man, it changes the bidding. The bidding is just so much more accurate.
Yeah, I mean, for me, ACoS or ROAS, if you prefer that, they're the same thing. But really, your return on investment from ads is the most crucial metric. And I mean, it's no different for authors that are in KU that are getting some or a majority of their sales from page reads. Like, you still have an ACoS. It's just a lot of mental work. So that was one of the first challenges we wanted to address with MerchJar when we came into the KDP space, that I don't think anyone else is doing, that I've seen from any other software. There's a lot of tools that, you know, can optimize ads and so forth, but when it comes to Kindle, I haven't seen any that do the same kind of things with the approach. I have to say, I do love your approach with how you went about creating recipes. Sort of just like, hey, these are the optimizations I'm already doing. Let me just jot down notes as I'm doing it. I think that's probably one of the best ways to get started with automating your campaigns, is just taking what you're already doing and just, you know, if you're finding yourself doing the same thing over and over, that's a perfect candidate to automate. I find myself doing the same thing too. I'll be an ad manager in MerchJar, just kind of adding some filters with whatever I'm exploring. And a lot of times I don't have like specific rules that I'm looking for. I'm just like, oh, I want to find everything that's, you know, above 50 cent CPC and has 2 orders and, you know, this. And it's like, well, this would make a great recipe. Like, I just ran a bulk action on this. Like, let's just take these same filters, put them into a recipe. Yeah. And then if I want to add some additional date ranges or whatever around it, it's, yeah, I love that approach about how you went about that.
Yeah, that it was just, you know, you look and you're like, all right, this keyword has, you know, 8 clicks and no conversions, no page reads. And it's like, we don't want to turn it off yet. Let's get a little more data, but it's like, let's turn it down. And so that's, you know, so we went in and we created those where it's like, okay, if it's got 5 to 9 clicks and it's got no page reads, no conversions, then let's just, you know, turn it down by like 5% or something. Give it, you know, just bump it down, see if it'll get those last few clicks that say like, okay, it's time to pause it, or, oh, we got 2 sales now, like, you know, and just, but that way we're not overspending on those. So just those little things has been great.
Awesome. I love to hear that. Regan, thanks so much for taking the time to share your insights and experiences. Where can our audience find you and learn more about Black Rose Writing and your work, or if they want to work with you?
Yeah, just at blackrosewriting.com. There's this for authors that, you know, the potential authors that want to work with Black Rose, there's a submissions tab that's got a really good form that they can go fill out and give as much data as possible to really, you know, get our team to possibly review their manuscript. And then social media, everything's pretty much Black Rose Writing. You can search for it and find us on social media.
Okay, great. Is there certain authors that that maybe you prefer to work with, or is like, do they need to be at a certain already selling, or do you work with new authors, or just kind of across the board?
Across the board, we have agented authors, we have new authors. Obviously, if an author submits to us that you know, they've published like 2 books on their own and they want us to publish their 3rd, and you go look at their 2 books and both of them have like 500 ratings on Amazon, that's a really good way to, you know, help. That'll almost guarantee you're going to get your manuscript read. And then from there, obviously, we've got to like the story, but that's a way to get your foot in the door, because from our end, we're saying like, okay, it's kind of like an agented author where it's like, all right, this author obviously has done something or knows something about the industry. They understand, you know, what it takes, and they have a little more insight, whereas sometimes you do get authors that just, they don't even know, you know, what their product page on Amazon is or anything. And so where they might have a great story, it's just, you know, there's going to be a lot of teaching involved to get the author to be able to market with us.
Sure. And if you are interested in using MerchJar, his agency uses MerchJar, so it can certainly help manage it. Do you do any like one-on-one type of consulting for people that are just looking to, you know, they're running their own ads, just need some expert help. Is that something you offer as well?
Not something right now. I mean, I'm happy to consider it. Obviously, if you email me, which my email's on the site.
I ask quite a bit for that type of help where, you know, they want to run their own ads, or maybe, you know, an agency is not a good fit. They don't want to, you know, they still want some control and, you know, just want to do it themselves, but need some help. So I mean, maybe I should have asked you this before the interview.
No, I'm always happy to take those. And, you know, I've helped a lot of other authors and stuff too, but yeah, I'm always happy to take that email and talk to them and stuff.
Okay, great. We'll have links in the description. Again, Regan, thanks so much for taking the time today. And to our viewers, thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next video.